Let's have a quick look at two important things before we start learning about oogenesis. What are primordial germ cells? They are a type of primary undifferentiated stem cells, and they differentiate to become gametes. Now, the primordial germ cells are present in an embryo. They migrate to the developing gonads, and then they differentiate to become gametes. That is the ova or the sperms. Okay. The next thing is meiosis. Now, in a cell cycle with meiosis, the cell has to go through G1, S, G2, and then enters meiosis 1, where it has to go through prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase 1. Then it has a short resting period called interkinesis, and then it enters meiosis 2, which again has prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2. Remember, there are 5 steps in oogenesis. First, the primordial germ cells, then oogonia, primary oocyte, followed by secondary oocyte, and then mature ovum. So primordial germ cells will differentiate and form oogonia. Oogonia, by 24 weeks of gestation, there are about 7 million oogonia present. And by the time the child is born, a lot of them undergo apoptosis, so we have only 1 million remaining at birth. The oogonia, they undergo DNA replication. Now remember, I told you in meiosis, even a cell undergoing meiosis has to go through the S phase, which is a stage of DNA replication. So the oogonia undergo DNA replication and become primary oocytes. So at birth, we have about 1 million primary oocytes. And then meiosis 1 starts. Now, in meiosis 1, the first stage is prophase 1. So they are arrested in prophase till the child reaches puberty. And by the time the child reaches puberty, there are only about 4 lakh primary oocytes. And after puberty, meiosis 1 is complete and meiosis 2 starts. So once meiosis 1 is complete, the primary oocyte becomes secondary oocyte. Remember, primordial germ cells differentiate, they form oogonia. Oogonia undergo DNA replication, they form primary oocytes. Primary oocytes complete meiosis 1, they become secondary oocytes. Then once the secondary oocytes are formed, they start meiosis 2, but they are arrested in metaphase 2. Remember, primary oocyte is arrested in prophase 1. Secondary oocyte is arrested in metaphase 2. And they are arrested 3 hours before ovulation till fertilization. So just 3 hours before the ovulation is going to occur, they are arrested in metaphase 2, and that stays same till fertilization. So after fertilization, meiosis 2 will be completed and then mature ovum is formed. So remember, primordial germ cells, they differentiate to become oogonia. Oogonia will undergo DNA replication to become primary oocytes. Primary oocytes are arrested in prophase 1 till puberty, and then they become secondary oocytes. After meiosis 1, primary oocytes become secondary oocytes. After meiosis 2, secondary oocytes will become mature ovum. But just 3 hours before ovulation, secondary oocytes get arrested in metaphase 2, and that is completed after fertilization, after which they become mature ovum. Okay? And this is one more thing you need to know. We have primary oocytes, okay? They are going to undergo meiosis 1, right? So they get arrested in prophase, and after puberty, meiosis 1 is completed. Now remember, what are the steps of meiosis 1? Prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, and telophase 1. So they were arrested in prophase till puberty. So after puberty, they have to start metaphase, right? So they start metaphase, they enter anaphase, and then finally telophase. So when primary oocytes undergo telophase 1, they are divided into a large daughter cell and a small polar body. If this is the entire cytoplasm of the primary oocyte, a major part of the cytoplasm goes to a larger daughter cell and a smaller polar body is formed with the remaining cytoplasm. So we have a large daughter cell and a small polar body. These two will undergo meiosis 2 again. Now remember, this large daughter cell is your secondary oocyte. Primary oocyte undergoes meiosis 1, it completes meiosis 1, and then it becomes one large daughter cell and a small polar body. The large daughter cell is the secondary oocyte. Then both of them undergo meiosis 2. Once they finish telophase 2, small polar body is divided into 2 more smaller polar bodies, okay? And the large daughter cell is divided into another daughter cell and polar body. So this is how it would be. So we have a primary oocyte, it finished meiosis 1. It formed one large daughter cell and a smaller polar body. That is your secondary oocyte. Both of these again undergo meiosis 2, and then this underwent meiosis 1. these two undergo meiosis 2. So once they finish meiosis 2, the polar body forms two more polar bodies, but the secondary oocyte forms one large daughter cell and one small polar body. The large daughter cell, which is formed after meiosis 2 of the secondary oocyte, is the mature ovum. Okay. So we have primordial germ cells. They differentiate. They form oogonia. Oogonia undergoes DNA replication and they form primary oocytes. Primary oocytes undergo meiosis 1 and they form secondary oocyte. Okay. Along with secondary oocyte, they also form one polar body. Right. Then both of these undergo meiosis 2. Polar body will form two more polar bodies. Secondary oocyte will undergo meiosis 2 and form one mature ovum and one polar body. The mature ovum is the larger daughter cell produced by the secondary oocyte. So these are the steps of oogenesis. Remember, there are 5 steps, and also remember, after puberty, the secondary oocyte is formed, and after fertilization, the mature ovum is formed.